Jamie here, Jamie here. Hope everyone's doing on Sunday, Monday, August 4th, 327 on this fine afternoon. Talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P up about 1.4% here, recouping some of Friday's losses. SPY's got to get over 632 to get back to Thursday's close. But some nice strength, right? Nice to see after Friday's, I guess we call it a bloodbath, but it's considering what's happened in 2025. It was a red session, right? But why are we rallying here today? You see the headlines, they say yields are going, yeah, the market's now pricing in higher probability of rate cuts. But it's like, what's the difference between today and Friday, right? There's no difference. Like the jobs report on Friday and those backward revisions should have already had an impact on rates, right? Or at least the expectation of it. So nothing's really changed. Then at 10:30, they say, oh, the EU is dropping its plans for counter tariffs on the US for at least 6 months. That's why the market's up today. But I think I think as the news gets digested, even over the weekend, you see so many like just all the articles you read. It's like too much sometimes because it's all skewed negative, right? The jobs report, oh, we're finally seeing signs of tariffs hitting, and it's just like you would think when the futures open Sunday night. I'm like, oh, not too bad. I thought we were going to be down 0.5% or 1% heading into Monday morning. I'm like, oh, it's going to be a great opportunity for a bounce, and unfortunately, didn't have to play out like that. Not that I want to see down, but there would have been, I think, a little easier premium trades to take on a Monday, right? Because especially when I do weekly options, premiums are a heck of a lot more expensive today than they are on Thursday, Friday. So a name like Reddit, I'd probably be more apt to play for a bounce today as opposed to lower if we were dipping at the open as opposed to where we were this morning. So it is what it is, but good to see things hold up here. I was talking about this morning, 618 to 636 on the SPY, right here at 630 and change. So maybe some chop. Not much in the way of catalysts this week. We just have the August 7th tariff day, right? I don't know if that's another, seems like every couple weeks is another deadline. And that deadline either gets pushed off or whatever. And then earnings, right? Over 1,300 companies reporting, or is it 1,100? I have to look how many it was. I think it's 1,300 companies reporting earnings this week. So a lot of smaller cap names, a lot of S&P has already reported. One, yeah, 1,317 companies. After the close today, you get names like Hims, Plantier is going to report. One of those momentum names. I'd try to stay away because it's like either that stock's either going to 200 and beyond, or it's going to eventually show chinks in the armor of its growth. I remember looking at that name when it was like 20, $30, and I passed on it. Not because of, I mean, I've said this before a couple months ago, but it's like the leadership of the CEO was a little quirky, I guess is the word. And then you looked at the valuations and the revenues, and I don't know, it didn't make sense for me, so I passed on it. But hopefully it does well for those who are in, because I don't know anybody who's into puts, and most people who are in are long, so hopefully it goes bonkers. But anyway, it's funny how the jobs report goes. It's going to be more ironic, or like it would be more, I wouldn't say comical, because it's a market, so I don't want it up and down, I don't want to see people who are short lose money because the bounce. I don't want to see people who are long lose money because the sell off. But if when we get another review on the jobs report, like the annual, whatever they call that, the standard, that we saw the 800,000 jobs revised last year, it'd be comical if it's like added, 200,000 jobs added. Anyway, all right. So that's kind of the overall market here. So that's the range I'm watching on the SPY. Yields are lower today. The dollar's up or bouncing. So all things good there. Funny market watch. They always have a great piece here. And this is Mark Holbert. This guy's been posting on Market Watch since 20 years. It has to be 15, 20 years. And he does Barron's too, because Barron's, Wall Street Journal, Market Watch, they're all one big conglomerate. And it seems like I used to get upset. I wouldn't say upset, but like, you do it reading in the morning or the afternoon, and you see these headlines like, oh my gosh, and like if you have large size positions that were small that are big, that you're like, oh, maybe I should have closed them out or whatever, because you see these headlines, you're like, uh-oh. But it's, after a while, I used to get upset and I'd post or whatever. Now I just kind of take it with a grain of salt. He's just writing pieces, right? And his pieces a lot of times are going to be something that's going to get people's attention, which when it says 1987 stock market crash, I mean, of course, people are probably going to click it, not for any reason, just to see, oh, what is it? And I guarantee, and I have to go back into some of the photos in the photo library, but I guarantee I have like 40 or so plus articles or screenshots of this exact same kind of headline that he's wrote, and he has bullish ones too. But their premise or the thought is that oh, when the market sold off, we had the big, 1987, the Black Monday, the the U.S. dollar had sold off 7% from highs that year. It's like, oh my gosh, well, the U.S. dollar was off over 10% so far at points this time this year. Oh my gosh, here we go, October, and take it sense my sarcasm. I mean, at some point that could be a setup like that. I can't dismiss that, but like that's your correlation to write this article, right? I mean, the dollar's been weak for a while, so anyway, the waters we navigate with some of these headlines. All right, so that's kind of the overall market. So just some individual names. Obviously, Joby Monster really doesn't describe it from its April lows. I was at 5 and change at the Liberation Day 6, and boom, all the way off to the races. I mean, kicking myself. I should say kick yourself. If you had told me, August 4th, Joby would be trading near $21. I would I think that's possible? I'd say maybe by the end of the year. To see it here now, I mean. So, if you've listened to rants over the last couple of months, I thought 20, but I also thought at some point there was going to be a large pull, and that pull kind of happened last week. But I mean, look, I mean, it was down 4 or 5 sessions in a row, and then boom, they had the news Friday, and then more news today, and it has earnings Wednesday. So, I think I had August 12s, August 15s. I sold those out, and then as it's rallying this morning, it's over $20, and my October 20s are less than when it was 17, $18 a couple of weeks ago. So I'm like, those premiums don't jive with me. We have earnings coming Wednesday, which kind of possible binary event. I mean, there could be some kind of update or a sell the news event. At some point, there'll be a sell the news event. So I don't want to hold all my risk on into the event. And the other thought process I have, or at least the rationale that I might, or the plan I might do on tomorrow. I'm going to wait till tomorrow and see how it shakes out tomorrow with tomorrow's action. But I might lock. I only have a couple left of the October 20s now, so I might lock a few more of those 20s and then go and get October 30s because I'm looking at the risk reward. I'm like, if Joby goes to like $28, my October 20s might be up another 100% or so. But if you get the 30s, and the 30s like 65 by 75, last check, I didn't even see what those are now. Uh, those might have a better risk reward because if it gets to $25, uh, the why don't actually am I looking at? Oh, maybe they're September 65 by 75. So I might look at those. So and not only that, they might open more strikes. So that's kind of the plan for now. But lock some more in this morning just because the premiums weren't going up as much as I thought they should. Considering not only that, I mean it's very volatile. You can have a downgrade again tomorrow, and it's shaking off downgrades. I think who had the last downgrade? Someone raised their price target from like 6 to 11 and kept their sell rating. I forget who it was. So you never know what could happen. It could be another short piece. I keep talking about Kerrysdale Capital, who was bearish on the name. I mean, pretty much, if you read the article, they thought that the company would never come to fruition. So you have to think someone else is going to come after this. Still has a large short interest. So it doesn't make sense to hold all the risk in, but it's one of those names it could have continue to have FOMO and it could be $30, right? You can't rule that out, but you have to have a little sanity too and think that at some point it's going to be a pull. So that's kind of how I trade. All right, so that's Joby. SERV Robotics, I still have multiple August strikes. I have September strikes. I'm looking for a way to play a bounce here because if you take a look, it was broke under 10 for a little bit on Friday, and now I think it can rally into its earnings on Thursday. So that was kind of the thought process. So I added some inexpensive August strikes, and the plan is to lock some or all those in before earnings, and then I'll be to offset some of the positions I've added already, and then I was doing the rant this morning, and you've heard my rants on SERV. I'm extremely bullish the name. I think it's going to trade north of 1375 in the coming weeks and months. Earnings could be a crapshoot, right? I mean, who knows? Their earnings, its service still kind of like in the midst of scale out, right? So their earnings and revenues are somewhat minuscule. So it's going to be a lot about the updates with Uber, how that's going to look at by the end of the year, any new partnerships, things like that, any new markets that are going to roll out. So it's more of an update game, right? So hopefully the updates are positive. But same token, I can't, the plan is I'm probably locked the calls I got in today, regardless of what happens before Thursday's close, just to take some risk off. So that's SERV 1375, then 18. A VKTX, TikTok actually just hit highs of the day just a second ago. Frustrating with VKTX because it looks like, and you can see today even, the weekly strikes are all getting decimated. Stocks up 3.5%, and the weekly strikes are down like 40-50% because people are playing the weekly options for data, right? Because data could be out today, could be out tomorrow, could be out next week, could be out next month, could be out December 31st for all we know, right? And of course, I mean, if it comes out December 31st, then something's wrong, right? then it's not going to come out December 31st. It'll probably, worst case scenario, start of September. Best case scenario, it should be out at any day now, right? Uh, it's just unfortunate. But for me, I just have the rest of my August 50s. I'll just continue to hold those because even if they were $2 right now, I mean, maybe I would sell a couple more, but I'm going to hold them for the data. That's the plan. And then if we get to August 15th expiration, I'll possibly look just dabble on a few out of the money strikes. But it's funny, you look again, the August weekly strikes, August and the weekly strikes are red, and then you go out to September and those strikes are green. So I might go out to September sooner rather than later, just in case the premiums continue to go up. But that's the plan on VKTX. And then Reddit, right? So, Reddit, great lotto trade on Friday, played that bounce from the 180s all the way up to in mid 190s for some nice bags. And then I was, thinking in hindsight, should I add some strikes into this week? But who knew what was going to happen over the weekend? I thought I'd get a better opportunity. And then I missed a squeeze off the open here. It gapped. Well, it didn't gap too much, right? So, uh, 188 and change is the low of the day. I was looking earlier today. I'm like, the 240s for next week look interesting on a risk reward basis. And similar to the market, a lot of folks writing about Reddit over the weekend, right? Reddit is almost like a proxy for humans, right? For those who are worried about robots and AI taking over. You read these articles. I forget who had an article over the weekend, one of these publications talking about like Reddit is, when you go to Reddit, it's human. Well, you don't know without a reasonable doubt, but most people you're interacting and commenting and things are written are humans, right? So uh huge, just insane growth, and that insane growth probably continues. And it's like if there was any argument for AI decimating their business and Google search, the way they redid their search was hurting Reddit. I mean, this past earnings kind of refuted that bear case. So now it's like you got to look, 230 and change was the highs. I you got to think maybe it's going to trade over that in the coming couple days, especially if the market holds its footing. So don't be surprised if I add some later dated strikes on Reddit, some higher ones, just because at some point it's going to take off. There it is, back in February. I think it was 230 and change, all time highs. Just some other names. Disappointed to miss Wayfair. I was playing Wayfair all the way through Liberation Day and beyond. Made some nice bags on that one. And then earnings today. Again, another one of those names pricing in like a recession and the tariff concerns, and it's been anything but. And then you see a name like RH. I've traded RH for some nice gains the previous couple of weeks. I was looking this morning. I'm like, premiums are expensive, and RH has done these type of moves where it gets you in, and then the next day it just sells off for no reason. But I'll continue to have eyes on those. And same with MDB, right? I was looking for some calls today, just as kind of like an overreaction, right? You take a look what it did with its earnings on in regards to first with Google. So it did some great things with Google, and then last week with Amazon, disappointing. So up 2% today. I thought it'd be up more, so I'll just be patient there. Still plenty of earnings this week, right? So CDLX, which actually was, you have Open's reporting. I don't know if they report tomorrow morning, but that could kind of set the meme names on fire again. But CDLX reports after the close Wednesday. Edit, TripAdvisor, which is only up a little bit here this morning. From the morning. I'm trying to think of some. Roku, up 7% today. Hey, maybe it goes on a massive rally. Still some time on my August strikes, but you're gonna need big move there. And I think that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.